So here is Francis Bacon's famous essay of studies. We'll have a brief introduction of Bacon, a short summary of the essay, 7 short answer questions, 4 paragraph questions, and 2 important essays for discussion. Francis Bacon, as for biography, Francis Bacon was born in 1561 and died in 1626. If you look up the slide, you can compare the lifetime of 2 famous English writers, Francis Bacon and William Shakespeare. They were contemporaries. Francis Bacon was born in 1561, whereas Shakespeare 3 years later in 1564. Shakespeare died a little earlier in 1616, whereas Francis Bacon lived for 10 more years. He died in 1626. Francis Bacon was born, as we discussed earlier, in 1561. He was a lawyer, a statesman, a writer, an essayist, and a philosopher. He is usually known as the master of the English tongue. And Bacon is chiefly remembered. He is popular for his worldly wisdom, the worldly wisdom that is contained in his essays. Francis Bacon was the youngest son of Sir Nicholas Bacon, who was a very important political figure in those days. He was Lord Keeper. Francis Bacon became a barrister in 1582, and then he entered politics. He also became a member of parliament in 1584. During the reign of King James I, Bacon became a very important figure. He scaled heights. He was knighted in 1603. That is, from that time onwards, he came to be addressed as Sir Francis Bacon. Knight, he became a knight. He became Solicitor General, Attorney General, Lord Keeper, and Lord Chancellor. But then, in 1621, 5 years before his death, he suffered a fall from his heights, from the height of his popularity, and also he fell into disgrace in 1621. There were several charges of corruption and bribery against him, and he publicly confessed his guilt, and finally Bacon died in 1626. So this is a brief, short biographical details of Francis Bacon. Well, his famous writings, his famous books, first one is The Advancement of Learning. The second one, History of Henry VII. Then New Atlantis. And also he has authored 58 essays and also a few books in Latin. He was a scholar in Latin, well versed in Latin. Well, as regards the essay of studies is Bacon's first essay in the series of 10 essays that were published in 1567. In 1567, he published a series of 10 essays, and of studies was the first in the series. Remember, this essay is a 500-word essay. It consists of exactly 500 words, and it is often regarded as Francis Bacon's masterpiece of studies, because the essay is enriched with Latin phrases, new ideas, logical themes, and full of worldly wisdom. And the essay has so many other stylistic features as well, and that is why that essay, though it was published in 1567, remember, a long time ago, it is still popular among the literary lovers of all ages. And in the essay, Bacon adopts a didactic approach because he intends to teach, like teaching. He writes the essay. In the essay he takes up the role of a teacher. He means to teach. It is meant to teach people, different ideas, lessons about the various aspects of learning, studies. It tells the readers about the benefits of studies, benefits of learning in life. Here is a short summary of the essay. Remember, it is a 500-word essay. First, Francis Bacon tells us about the uses of studies. What are the uses of studies? He says, studies provide, the studies offer delight. They are also good for ornament in discourse, and they also enhance the ability for judgment. The three uses. Studies are for a delight, for ornament, and for ability. Three things, three uses of studies. And he also says that experts, people who are experts, they use knowledge, they use studies to succeed in life. They make use of it. But it is the scholars, people who are well versed in various branches of learning. They can frame principles of conduct. This is about the uses of studies. Now, second, he tells us about the disadvantages of studies. What are the disadvantages? First, he tells us about the uses of studies. And then, what are the disadvantages of studies? He says, he strikes a caution. He cautions us, spending too much time. Don't spend too much time in studies, because it would make us lazy. And sometimes, usually, people who study a lot, people who are scholars, they have a tendency to display learning. So that is to be avoided. Don't display, don't make a show of learning. Then too much learning, that is also not good for us, because it might stop practical application, because we might become very theoretical. Then how different men approach studies. He says there's the famous dictum: crafty men contemn studies, simple men admire them, and wise men use them. Crafty men, people who are very, very crafty and cunning, they contemn, they have a sort of contempt for studies. Simple men, simple-minded people, they admire studies, and it is the wise men who use the learning or knowledge. Then Bacon also tells us about the different types of different kinds of books. He says some books are to be tasted, others to be swallowed, and some few to be chewed and digested. So some books are to be tasted, means they have to be read in parts. Others to be swallowed, like swallowing, because there are some books that need complete reading, but not a very, very close reading, a close perusal. And some few to be chewed and digested. There are some books that are to be read very, very carefully, word by word, letter by letter. They should be like chewed and digested, because they are very hard stuff. They deserve detailed examination, detailed study. Then uses of language skills, language skills, that is listening, speaking, reading, and writing. Bacon tells us, reading maketh a full man, conference a ready man, and writing an exact man. So reading makes man well informed. Reading makes a full man, that is well informed, thoroughly informed. A conference, a ready man, that is conversation, makes make a person quick-witted, ready. Ready means with a quick, uh, quick replies. And writing is perhaps the most difficult skill, language learning. Writing makes him an exact man. So this is a brief, short summary of the essay. Then there is one more point that he discusses. There's a comparison, because study, learning, knowledge, it cures the diseases of the mind. It removes the imperfections of mind. For example, various branches of learning like history, poetry, mathematics, science, and these different subjects, different faculties, different branches of learning, they help us in different ways. History provides wisdom. History gives us wisdom. Poetry gives us, it sharpens our imagination. Mathematics helps us, it gives us concentration, because if our mind wanders, if there's a wandering mind, a mind that is not steady, that lacks concentration, then that for such people, mathematics is very, very useful. Science, the study of science, it instills, it gives depth in thoughts, it makes us deep. Just as then here's a comparison. Just as physical exercises can cure the diseases of the body, like there are different types of physical exercises that help us cure the diseases of the body, various diseases. The imperfections of the mind can be corrected by proper study, by the study of proper subjects. For example, he says, like the physical exercise, bowling. In sports, bowling is good for kidneys, shooting is good for lungs, and gentle walking is good for digestion. Likewise, reading removes one's imperfections of the mind, can be removed, can be cured by reading appropriate subjects, appropriate books. This is the summary of uh, Francis Bacon's famous essay of studies. Now here are some short answer questions that are usually asked to be answered in 2 or 3 sentences. For example, what are the main uses of studies according to Bacon? This is the first question. What are the main uses of studies according to Bacon? We know studies provide delight. It is good for ornament, and also it gives us ability. That is the the opening sentence. Study is for pleasure, delight. Then it is for ornament, number 2. So pleasure, ornament, and also it gives the ability to judge, to make a proper judgment. And it also studies, it helps us to arrive at good conclusions, So pleasure, ornament, and ability, these are the 3 uses of studies. What is the point of comparison between natural abilities and natural plans? So he makes a comparison. Bacon makes a comparison between natural abilities and natural plans. Natural plants, they go on growing into a wild growth, but unless you prune it, unless you trim it, plants are to be trimmed to help to help the plants in a in a beautiful in beautiful shapes. So if pruning is not done, if a pruning or trimming is not done, it will just look like a wild growth, a wild forest. Similarly, he says, natural abilities, our faculties are like natural plants that need what? Pruning, trimming of its wild growth, while the former, that is natural abilities, needs pruning by studies. So natural plants need pruning with the secateurs, with the scissors, with the knife, while natural abilities need pruning by studies. Now, how does Bacon categorize books What are the different categories of books? We know some books are to be tasted, others to be swallowed, and some few to be chewed and digested. This is what the famous statement, the famous saying, the famous dictum. Some books are to be tasted, some books are to be read in parts, that is to be tasted. Some need complete reading, though not close perusal, that is others to be swallowed. So need swallowed, swallow completely, complete reading, not close reading, not detailed reading, and some few to be chewed and digested. There are some books that are to be chewed and digested. That is, every detail it is to be scanned very, very carefully. So some books are to be tasted, others to be swallowed, and some few to be chewed and digested. Now, here is the fourth question. How do different linguistic skills help man? You know, the four linguistic skills, listening, speaking, reading, and writing. So he says, Bacon says, reading maketh a full man, conference a ready man, and writing an exact man. So this is the observation that Bacon makes. Reading makes a full man. Full man means well informed, a man who is thoroughly informed of all the news, of all the information, well informed. Reading maketh a full man. Conference a ready man. Conference, that is conversation. If you hold discussions, if you talk, that is conversation. If you converse with others, makes him ready, means quick-witted. You can give, quick replies. And the third one, writing, well, that is the most difficult skill, makes a person very exact, that it gives that is precision to our mind. That is, so reading maketh a full man, conference a ready man, and writing an exact man. Now here's a Latin expression, Abeunt studia in mors. Can you explain? This is a very important question. Explain. Abeunt studia in mors means studies affect character. This Latin expression means studies shape character. Studies affect character. Abeunt studia in mors. Now, question number 6. What are the remedies suggested by Bacon for the different mental deficiencies? For the mental deficiency, what are the remedies that Bacon suggests? If there are, some deficiencies, some weaknesses, now how can they be rectified? Bacon suggests history. Read history, it provides wisdom. Now, if you read poetry, it is good for imagination. What about mathematics? Mathematics is the key to concentration. It helps us in our concentration. And science, it gives depth in thought. It helps us to think very deeply. So history provides wisdom. Poetry is good for imagination. Mathematics is good for concentration. Science is good for deep thinking. While moral philosophy, what about that? It makes us very grave, serious. And logic and rhetoric, they enhance, they increase the power of argument. We can hold discussions, debates. It's good for debates, logic and rhetoric. So, history gives wisdom, poetry gives imagination, mathematics, concentration, science, depth in thought, moral philosophy makes us grave, very serious, logic and rhetoric is good for debates. Question number 7. What is the similarity between diseases of the body and diseases of the mind? What is the comparison? The similarity. Well, Bacon makes the observation. Physical exercises can cure the diseases of the mind, diseases of the body. Some of the mild diseases can be cured by proper exercises. Similarly, the defects of the mind can be removed by proper study. For example, bowling is good for kidneys. Shooting is good for the lungs. Gentle walking is good for the stomach, digestion. Mathematics is good for concentration. Science promotes deep thinking. So this is the comparison between physical exercises, that is diseases of the body and diseases of the mind. Some of the diseases of the body can be removed by proper exercises. Similarly, the diseases of the mind can be cured by proper study of appropriate subjects, that is branches of knowledge. So that is the short answer questions. Now we come to the paragraph questions. We are supposed to write answers in about 100 words. That is short essays, a paragraph of about 100 words. First question, what are the uses of studies? We know Bacon tells us about 3 important uses of study. What are they? 3 important uses. Studies, they are good for delight, for ornament, and for ability. These are the 3 uses of study. Studies offer delight. They are good for ornamentation in discourse. They also promote the ability to be fair, to be proper, to be right in our judgment, to make right judgments. Experts, people who are experts, they make use of the knowledge to succeed in life. They make use of it. What about the scholars? Scholars can frame principles of conduct. They, make theories. They frame, they make principles of conduct. But remember, studies have certain disadvantages as well as disadvantages. Studies have certain disadvantages as well. To spend too much time in studies, it would make one very, very lazy. So do not. So he strikes, a caution. He cautions us against spending too much time in studies. To spend too much time in studies makes us very lazy. Then for some people, who read a lot, who study a lot, they have a tendency to display, to exhibit their knowledge. That is not good. The tendency to exhibit learning is not good for a learner, and that tendency is to be avoided. And also, too much learning may prevent. It has a disadvantage. What? The too much learning may prevent practical application in real life. So don't learn too much. So everything should be appropriate, and also only up to a certain level, not beyond a limit. Question number 2, how do different men approach study? There's the famous dictum, crafty men contemn studies, simple men admire them, and wise men use them. This is how different men approach learning or knowledge or study. Crafty men, that is people who are crafty, cunning, find the cunningness as an effective substitute for book learning. They don't need learning. Crafty men, they have contempt for studies. What about simple men? Men who are simple-minded, they admire the glory of books. And the third type of people, wise men, they apply the knowledge in real life. They make use of the knowledge. They apply the knowledge in real life situations. And there are some men, they keep on acquiring knowledge. They study and study and study, but lack the ability. They don't have the ability to apply knowledge. Bookish knowledge that is derived from book, is theoretical. There is no practical application. Its span is theoretical knowledge. The span of theoretical knowledge is limited. Practical experience increases a man's deep knowledge when he applies it. So the knowledge that we gather, the knowledge that we get from books, that is bookish knowledge, we should apply it. Then only it becomes total or complete. Practical experience increases a man's deep knowledge when he applies it. Question number 3. What are Bacon's observations on different types of reading? You know, that famous dictum: some books are to be tasted, others to be swallowed, and some few to be chewed and digested, he says. Bacon tells us about different kinds of books. Some books are to be tasted, others to be swallowed, and some few to be chewed and digested. Here Bacon tries to distinguish between the quality and the value of the content of books. About the content, he says some books are to be read in parts, to be tasted, just read in parts. Others need complete reading, swallowed, though not close perusal, not close reading, not detailed reading. And there are some books which are to be chewed and digested. That is, every detail is to be scanned very, very carefully. So you make it, you can you subject some books for, you know, total reading, total investigation, total examination, thorough examination, scanned very, very carefully. In other cases, there are abstracts. There are also, you know, in some cases, you know, for example, people in very important position, they read things in abstracts. Abstracts are read to get only the content. You get from abstracts, from a summary synopsis, you get the main ideas. Now, what are Bacon's ideas on the appropriate remedies for the diseases of the mind? Remedies, appropriate remedies. There's a famous comparison. Physical exercises can cure diseases of the body. Similarly, the diseases of the mind can be cured, can be corrected, can be remedied by appropriate study. Bacon concludes his essay of studies by suggesting remedies for diseases of the mind. Just as physical exercises can cure the diseases of the body, the defects of the mind can be corrected by proper study. For example, bowling is good for kidneys, shooting is good for lungs, and gentle walking is good for stomach and digestion. Similarly, the study of mathematics is good for concentration. Science helps us, you know, to do deep thinking. And law, what about law? Study of law is a good prescription for an unsteady memory. Study of law, you know, it helps our helps to enhance, helps to reinforce our memory, to enhance our memory. So these are the important paragraph questions, the 4 paragraph questions. Now we'll take up 2 essay questions. Essay question number 1. This is a textual question. Question number 1. Summarize Bacon's observations contained in the essay. This is purely what are the ideas contained in Bacon's essay of studies. So here is the first part. The essay is given in 5 paragraphs. Paragraph number 1, of studies. The first paragraph is an introduction. Of studies is regarded as Francis Bacon's masterpiece. The essay is enriched with, it is full of new ideas, logical themes, and worldly wisdom. So the essay contains 3 things. Number 1, ideas, new ideas. Number 2, logical themes. And number 3, worldly wisdom. With a didactic approach, because he intends to teach people about the uses or about the different aspects of studies, books. With a didactic, that is meant to teach, didactic approach, it tells the readers about the benefits of studies. This is introduction, paragraph number 1. Paragraph number 2. Bacon speaks about 3 important uses of studies. We have already discussed it. Delight, ornament, ability. 3 things. Studies give us delight. They are also good for ornamentation, in discourse, in discussion, in conversation. Studies also promote ability to be fair in our judgment. Now, what about the different types of people? How do they use it? Experts, they make use of knowledge to succeed in life. But the scholars, they can frame principles of conduct, how to conduct ourselves in our life. Studies have certain disadvantages also, because spending too much time in studies is not good. It makes one very, very lazy. Paragraph number 3. Crafty, different types of the approach of different types of people to studies. Crafty men contemn studies, simple men admire them, and wise men use them. There are many ways to read books. Bacon says, some books are to be tasted, that is, to be read in parts. Others need a complete reading to be swallowed, though not close perusal, not close reading. There are some books that are to be chewed and digested. Subject such books for very detailed study. Then the different skills. Reading maketh a full man, conference a ready man, writing an exact man. Reading makes man full, means well informed, thoroughly informed. Conference, that is conversation, makes him ready, means quick-witted. It helps us to give quick, immediate replies. And what about writing? That's the most difficult task. Makes him an exact man. Study helps to cure the weakness of the mind. History, it provides wisdom. Poetry gives us imagination. Mathematics sharpens our concentration. And moral philosophy makes us very grave, serious. Logic and rhetoric increases what? The power of argument. Bacon concludes his essay by suggesting remedies for the deficiencies, weaknesses of the mental faculties. That is, weakness of the mind can be cured by proper study, just as physical exercises can cure the diseases of the body. The imperfections, weaknesses of the mind can be corrected by study. For example, bowling is good for kidneys, shooting is good for lungs, and gentle walking is good for digestion. Similarly, likewise, reading removes one's imperfections. Study of mathematics is good for concentration. Well, here's the last paragraph. That is a conclusion. Francis Bacon's essays are unique. They are, unequal, very, very unique. Essays are full of worldly wisdom and Latin expressions. Two things. Essays contain worldly wisdom. They also contain Latin expressions. The essays are also filled with similes and other stylistic devices. A lot of literary devices are used, especially similes, metaphors. His style is, look at the four words: epigrammatic, epigram, aphoristic, aphorism, pithy, and terse. All the four words, they mean almost the same thing. Very terse, epigrammatic statements. For example, some books are to be tasted, others to be swallowed, and some few to be chewed and digested. It's very easy for us to remember such statements. Epigrammatic, aphoristic, aphorism, pithy, very short and brief, and terse, very brief and terse statements, but it is full of wisdom. The essays are also famous for the effective use of rhetorical devices such as parallel structures and antithesis. Antithesis means, the opposite, something, something against the thesis already stated. Antithesis, that is opposite of what you have already stated. And the parallel structures, that is grammatical structures that are almost similar structures. Some books are to be tasted, others to be swallowed. Almost, repetition of the same ideas. Parallel structures and antithesis. So this is the essay. Now there is one more essay about Bacon's style, prose style. That is very, very famous. That is why his essays are even now very, very popular. Francis Bacon is considered as the father of modern English prose. His essays are very, very distinctive and become a class by themselves, because something special, something that is unique, very distinctive. The essay of studies is an excellent example of his prose style. Some of the features of his style are the following. These are some of the features of his style. Number one, short and concise statements and sentences. As I said earlier, epigrammatic, aphoristic, pithy, and terse. So, short and concise, short sentences. Studies provide delight, ornament, and ability. The first statement, short and concise sentences. No parenthesis. There is no explanation in brackets or in between dashes. There is no explanation because everything is very, very simple and clear. Clarity, rhythm, and coherence. Ideas are almost related. Coherence, aphorisms, and figures of speech, and parallel structures, Latin expressions, worldly wisdom. So these are the major features of his essays. So number one, short and concise sentences, no parenthesis, clarity, rhythm and coherence, aphorism, that is epigram, pithy, terse sentences, figures of speech, parallel structures, Latin expressions, and worldly wisdom. So these are some of the features of his style. Paragraph number 2. Bacon's essays have an excellent start, like Shakespeare's opening scene. It strikes the keynote of the play. So studies provide delight, ability, and studies offer delight for ornament and for ability. Like that, it's just like Shakespeare's opening sentence. Bacon's essays have an excellent start with an aphoristic and pithy statement. Studies serve for delight, for ornament, and for ability. It arrests the attention of the readers. The opening sentence also strikes the keynote of the topic. In this way, he keeps the thematic discussion very, very focused, sharp focus, and very, very lucid, very, very clear with the first statement, with an arresting statement. Paragraph number 2. Bacon's sentences require no explanation because they are self-explanatory. Hence, no parenthesis. Nothing is written between words, between brackets or between dashes. Nothing, no need, because everything is very clear. They are also clear and lucid, very clear. There is no ambiguity. There is no vagueness. Everything is very clear. Bacon uses simple and common words with examples from everyday life and experience. The comparisons, examples are things that we are very, very familiar with. His prose is enriched with brilliant figures of speech. The figures of speech are drawn from familiar objects of nature. For example, the famous comparison in studies are very, very vivid and suggestive. Natural abilities are compared to natural plants. Everybody knows, natural plants. Plants are to be pruned. Plants are to be trimmed, kept pruned, kept trimmed. So similarly, he says natural abilities need pruning by study. Distilled books, he talks about distilled books, that is abstracts. Distilled books are like common distilled water. They have no taste. Distilled water, when the minerals and other things are removed, it is flashy thing, tasteless. So he says distilled water is flashy, tasteless. Similarly, distilled book is also tasteless, flashy. Bacon was a scholar. He was a very, very learned man, and his wide learning is reflected in the Latin quotations that he uses freely in his essays. For example, in the essay of studies, Abeunt studia in mores, studies affect character. And the simile sectors, he uses another expression, simile sectors, hair splitters, hair splitting argument. His essays are also enriched with the practical ideas, logical themes, and worldly wisdom. He adopts a didactic approach, meant to teach. And so his essay on studies thoroughly, completely informs the readers about the benefits of studies. So there's a famous saying in English, the style is the man, the style is the man. So the man from his style. It is Bacon's style that makes his prose one of the best in the world. The master strokes that Bacon makes with his style, such as terse, pithy sentences, clarity and rhythm, aphorisms, figures of speech, and Latin expressions, make his essays very, very unique. I hope it's very, very clear now. So we have discussed a brief introduction of Francis Bacon. We also had a brief summary and 7 short answer questions, 4 paragraph questions we have discussed, and also 2 essays. So best wishes. Thank you very much. This is the end of Bacon's discussion, his essay of studies. Thank you very much. Good luck.